Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rady Rahban, and today's episode is about sort of 2026. I hate the term trends. All these doctors love to use these things like trends, what's going to be popping. I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen in 2026. I don't know. I can give you some ideas of things that are occurring in 2025 that should tail into 2026. I'll give you some of the things that I want you to pay attention to, be careful of, and sort of what is occurring. I'm just going to give you my gist on the recent past, the current, and the immediate future. After that, I couldn't tell you anything. So let's just call it, what's going to happen, what might happen in 2026. At any rate, two things are happening that I overall like and I am fond of. Number one, I think that the patient is getting more sophisticated. I think that people are catching on to taking advantage. While many of my posts and talks are about be careful of social media, watch what you're seeing, so many people are nonsensical, there's a lot of manipulation and influence, all that. Yes, I still think that's a major issue and will always be an issue. But I think that a large percentage of patients are actually taking advantage of the information that's available, which there is a lot of, and they're becoming smarter, savvier, and more educated and more sophisticated. And I see that in my practice all the time. Granted, my practice is a little slanted in that direction. I do think, though, patients are coming in, many of which smarter than ever before. So I like that, and I think that's going to continue. The other is those people, that quality of patient is also starting to burn out of, social media fatigue. They're kind of getting sick of the images, the same overall look, the cookie cutter, the influencer, the sharp chin, the high eyebrows, the pointy little nose, the huge lips, whatever that aesthetic is, pretty or not pretty, you're kind of just getting burnt out of those images. And so there is definitely a fatigue, and so it's not impacting them nearly as much. So I do think there is this subset, and I think that subset is increasing. I don't know that they're the majority of patients, but I definitely think that they are on the rise, and that part I very much like. So what are some of the things that we're going to see? Number one, without a doubt, regenerative medicine is on the rise, right? Things like exosomes and tissue engineering and using scaffoldings and matrices and PRF and PRP and stem cells, all those terms which everyone has heard and no one has a fucking clue what it is, neither do the doctors, are on the rise. And at some point, and I don't know, maybe 2026 will be the beginning of it, we will start getting a grasp on it. What I mean by that is doctors, you would think is an exosome, for example, salmon sperm, PRP, PRF, stem cells. You think, okay, here we're using them. They're in spas, they're in doctors' offices, and everyone touts to be an expert. But really, if you ask them, it's some good stuff that we're putting onto patients or injecting into patients, and it's doing good things. But we don't really know what it is that's doing it, how it's doing it, and why it's doing it. So I think that as time goes on, regenerative medicine for sure is a very bright future in medicine, which will obviously trickle down to cosmetics and aesthetics and reconstructive surgery. I'm excited about that. I couldn't tell you what item will or won't because there's 25 items, let's say, that are sort of hot. And by the end of 2026, 10 of them will go away and 4 more will show up. But definitely we're on the rise with that. The next thing that I think is happening is that the whole facial aesthetic world has exploded. And this, again, like everything else, has been made viral or exploded because of the ignition of social media and celebrities. This one thing I'm a fan of because I think as a surgeon, my hands were tied, right? We had patients that were young, we had patients that were older, and we knew what to do with them. What do we do about that middle patient? And that middle patient was someone, let's say, early to late 40s, right? 39, 42, 45, 47, that age. What did we do with them? So when you're 18, 20, 25, you're beautiful, everything's perfect. You do a little bit of Botox, you touch a filler here, there, everything's amazing, assuming you don't screw it up. When you become, 57, whatever, you do a brow lift, an eyelid, a facelift, amazing. What do we do with the 46-year-old who is in shape or whatever and has a little bit of jowl, a little bit of this, starting to sag around their eyes? What do we do? Well, we used to just sit here and wait. And that's where pillow face came from, overvolumization. Like we had a few tools, like this particular patient required a very small hammer, right? The big hammer was used for the 50 some odd year olds, but this particular patient needed a small hammer and we were like, well, we won't use a hammer. Oh, don't say hammer. Hammer's bad. Let's use a screwdriver. Yeah, but the problem needs a hammer. Yeah, I know, but a hammer's too aggressive. Let's just use a screwdriver. And so we were screwdriving a nail, and it never got anywhere. And so people were turning into these pillow faces, whatever. One thing that has happened in the end of 2025, which will continue into 2026, is we are now doing facial surgery, facial aesthetic surgery, neck lifts, face lifts, brow lifts, eyelids in younger patients. And unlike other trends that suck, this one's awesome because they needed it. They needed the goddamn brow lift. They didn't need it as strong. They needed their eyelids removed. They didn't need as much. Their neck needed as much. They needed a small hammer. And now we can pull out a small hammer and no one freaks out. And that was awesome because now I can have the conversation and no one looks at me sideways like I'm some weirdo because I'm only 44. Well, I don't know what to tell you. You have a jowl. Like, it doesn't matter if you're 24. You have a jowl, and a jowl is a nail, and a nail needs a hammer. And that's the end of it. So I'm very excited about that. The thing that I also like is the idea of combination surgeries is much more accepted. So, it's you would say I need a breast dog and a labioplasty. The two of those have nothing to do with each other. So they're two surgeries. It's like, oh, I don't know, it's just too much surgery. But when you need a brow lift, you usually need your eyelid done. When you need your eyelid done, you often need a little neck surgery. So your face is this single organ. It's the breast, the abdomen, the face. And it was a little bit more challenging to get people to understand that, yes, they came in for the jowl, but their brow is sagging. And if they want to look good, they kind of need their brow to be elevated. So assuming you can afford it, I understand all those things. I think people are getting the gist of doing a little bit, a lot of a little bit, than a lot. Let me rephrase that. Doing a little to a lot than doing a lot to a little. So in other words, doing a little bit of brow, eyelid, oh wow, you look great, versus just doing a very aggressive neck lift or what have you. So that has been fantastic. I think you can't escape AI. AI is coming in 2026 because it's everywhere. It's literally doing everything. I don't know that I think it's going to advance plastic surgery. I know everyone thinks it is and everyone's excited and oh my God, the morphs are going to get better. And the reason I don't think it's going to do anything, and everyone who follows me and everyone who's come to my office knows that I'm not a fan of morphs. The benefit of a morph is I, as the patient, have an idea of what I may look like. So let me rephrase that. I do a morph of your breast, of your nose, of your face, if whatever, and I, the patient, can look on a screen and be like, ooh, I like that or I dislike that. In essence, in its intention, it's a great idea. I want to be able to know what I'm going to look like, and I, the doctor, want you to know what you're going to look like so I don't have any surprises. We're all on the same page. But this is artistic. And what the morph does has nothing to do with what I will end up doing. I may do what the morph looks like, and I may not do what the morph looks like. And therefore, the morph is by definition misleading. And as a result, always till the end of time, every morph, the most advanced AI in the world, will say results may vary, which in essence means you may not look like this, which in essence means I still don't know what I'm going to look like. Do you understand what I just said? So the AI is not doing the surgery. If the AI was doing the surgery, then the morph would be accurate. But since the AI is just me using AI to say what I may or may not look like, and then you go to sleep and I operate on you, and as much as I want to make you look like the AI, there's tissue, there's bleeding, there's scar, whatever, you're not going to look like it. So I have chosen, and will likely till the day I die, choose never to use the technology, because for the little benefit it gives you, which is, I kind of get it, you are totally being misled. Guys sit there with this computer thing and bring your nose up and bring your nose down and push it forward and back and just basically are just appeasing you as a patient until you say, I like it. And then they go and operate on you and it has nothing to do with that. So I don't know about this whole AI concept and whether or not it's going to make a difference or not. The next thing that's happening in 2026, which has been happening for a while now, is younger and younger patients are going to have surgery. We like it, we don't like it, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. In general, it's a bad thing, generally, because a lot of the young people are getting things they don't need. I am in favor of everyone having surgery of whatever it is that they do need. I don't care about your age. Literally, if you are a 16-year-old young boy and you can't breathe out your nose and you got a humongous schnoz and you're skeletally mature, I have no problem operating on your nose, and I've done so on my own nieces and whatnot. So age is irrelevant, right? If my son had a surgery for his hernia at 4, so age is not relevant. What's relevant is that I'm 20 and I'm getting a lip lift and my lip's normal. I am 19 and I'm getting my brow lift and my brow hasn't moved since I was born. It's like, so whether we like it or not, that's going to happen. And as always, I always tell you the truth, which is doctors are the ones to blame, because you can come. My son, again, this morning, he asked me for gingerbread. He made a gingerbread house and he came to me at 7 a.m. He's like, hey, Dad, I want to eat it. So him asking and me giving it to him are two separate things. So patients coming in at 25 and asking for, I don't know, whatever, is not really that surprising. What's surprising is that someone will say, yeah, sure, I'll do it. That's what's surprising. At any rate, so younger and younger patients are going to come and get surgery, and it is what it is. It's on social media, and nothing will change. Revisions are skyrocketing. I hate it because of 2 reasons. My practice is like almost 50% revision now. And why I hate it is, number one, it makes me sad, right? It's a shame. Like, the person who comes to me is unhappy. They wasted money. They're never going to look the same. It's shitty. And second is, it makes the surgery 10 times more complicated, and I would rather operate on a first-time nose. It's easier, it's more predictable, I can do what I need to do, whereas if you come in and you've had 2 nose jobs, let's be honest, it's not as much fun for me to do. Yes, it's heroic, and I can pat myself on the back, but as an artist, I'd rather just operate on a primary nose. So revisions on the rise, and some of the revisions will be undoing BBLs, right? Because all these people are now skinny on Ozempic and Mounjaro, and everyone now went from embracing our curviness, which was not really their curviness, it was fake curve because you had a 360 lipo and fat transfer, so you actually weren't curvy. But nonetheless, embracing our curviness to like, oh, I can take a shot and get skinny. Okay, everyone's skinny now. God, shit, I don't want to be curvy anymore. So we have to reverse some of those things. Obviously, there are other surgeries that need to be reversed. As things go on the rise, then they need revisions, right? So facial aesthetics are on the rise, facelifts, things like that, they'll require revisions. A huge area of my practice is body contouring after massive weight loss. So that is a massive trend. That is 100% driven by all these medications, right? People have wanted to be thin because of its health benefits and because it looks good since the beginning of time. But because historically required diet and exercise and your metabolism, it was what it was. Then came the advent of bariatric surgeries, Roux-en-Y, gastric sleeve, lap bands, etc. So then we had the whole advent of body contouring after massive weight loss, which means I, as a surgeon, am fixing your arms, your thighs, your legs, all the areas that now are loosey-goosey. And then we just cranked it up by 1 million by giving people these shots as GLP, semaglutides, Ozempic, Mounjaro, because now by the hordes, I have patients who have lost 100 pounds. And once you lose 100 pounds, it doesn't matter how you do it. It matters nothing. It doesn't matter if you do a diet, doesn't matter if you do it slow, doesn't matter if you do it by exercise, doesn't matter if you do a gastric sleeve, take a pill, you lost 100 pounds. It doesn't matter if you're 18, it doesn't matter if you're 50. You will have redundant skin that you will dislike, that will make you feel uncomfortable, self-conscious, and not total. So whether it's your breasts, your abdomen, your upper back, your lower back, your inner thighs, your arms, your neck, it's going to need to be fixed. And it has become a massive part of my practice. I did it well before these medications came on board. And I think this will be a huge part of 2026. Men are slowly creeping up. So men have generally been about 20% of my practice. And I think probably at best they represent 20-25% of all patients. So every year they're going higher and higher because it's becoming more acceptable, more normal. It's not as embarrassing. Yes, I think forever and ever women will represent the bulk of it, but men are definitely on the rise, and they're going to be doing things like their neck lifts and facelifts and jawline and all those things because, of course, some of those men are losing weight on the GLPs. So it's going to be a natural part of it. Breasts are going to be the pendulum swung, right? So with the thin bodies and with the athletic, with the health conscious come smaller breasts. So we have had a ton of patients who come in for breast enhancement or downsizing, and they're always looking to be smaller than historically. My practice has always skewed that direction. We've never really had a big breasted practice, but nevertheless, globally, I think people are trying to decrease the size of their implants. And then, of course, there is just the whole trend of Explant. Whether that's because I'm over it, I'm more holistic, my friend has an entity called BII, I'm afraid of ALCL. There's a number of reasons why people are opting to remove their implants. And of course, that trend will continue into 2026. And then there are a couple of things I want to just touch on, which are cautionary notes, sort of. Some are cautionary and some are products. Some very cool products that are going to be changing 2026 and things that I want you to pay attention to. Number one is, as everyone knows, I am not a fan of high volume liposuction for fat transfer. I have no issue with liposuction judiciously. I have no issue with fat transfer when it's done tastefully. I just don't like high volume liposuctioning the shit out of you to get canisters of fat to put into your butt because of the damage of what it does to the body. Well, my prayers were answered. So in 2026 and beyond, there is a new product, and there will be more of processed fat derivatives such as alliclay, which is basically fat from a donor, a dead person. They take their fat, strip it of all the genetic markers, sterilize the shit out of it, get rid of all of the bacteria, viruses, etc. Whether you believe it or not, that's for another day. And prep it, get it ready, put it in a syringe, send it in a box, which has 6 months shelf life. That's right, you heard it here. I can now, like a filler for your lips, open up a box with fat in it, dried and ready to go, and I can inject it in your butt and your breast. Not really your face yet. And this product is the beginning of the future, because while it has some issues that I don't love, and I've used it on several cases, in general, it represents the future of volumization, because fillers, hyaluronic acid, all these other ones are transient or create reactions. Fat, I got to borrow it from somewhere. And while in some patients you have endless amount of it, but a lot of my patients are fit, lean, athletic. They don't have a lot of fat. The best is having fat, but borrowing from your friend. And so this is essentially that. And, for your butt and your breast, which has been used now for several years before it was launched, it seems to be the revolution. And I've used it, and I think it will be the revolution. Obviously, like any product, Botox, filler, anything that ever comes, there's some working it out. Some things will be good, some things will be bad. But this is a product to stay forever, and there'll be many manufacturers that bring it out. So keep your eyes out for these products. I think they will change the game of facial, breast, and body volumization. The next thing is the implant Motiva, and also their Preservei technique, and as a result, everything that it comes with. So let us make a small discussion about Motiva so you understand. It will be all over 2026 because it was all over the tail end of 2025. Let me tell you what it is and isn't. What it is a breast implant that is not new, although it's new to us. This implant has been around for 20 plus years in and around the world, with the exception of in the US. So it is not a new implant. It is a new implant to the United States and recently got FDA approval here. It is like all the existing implants that you have talked about, Allergan, Mentor, Sientra. It is a silicone gel implant. It is a silicone gel implant. However, it has some differences in technology that they propose and some advocates propose as having some benefits and like everything, some downsides. So one of their claims to fame is that their shell, the outside of their implant, is unique and different and beneficial. So we historically had two shells: smooth, which is currently the workhorse and has always been the workhorse, just smooth outside, or textured, which was like sandpapery on the outside. Well, the sandpapery on the outside textured implants were removed off the market several years ago when they were associated and linked to a very rare but real type of cancer of the capsule. Now, it's not a breast cancer of breast tissue, but rather a cancer of the capsule, which is the scar tissue that your body forms around the implant and around all foreign devices. So if you put a pacemaker in, your body will create a capsule. If you put a shunt in, your body will create a capsule. You put an implant in, your body creates a capsule, which is your tissue, scar tissue, fibrous, beautiful, nothing wrong with it. But the texturing somehow irritated that capsule. And as a result, very, very rare, but real type of cancer occurred in the capsule, which was ALCL, anaplastic large cell lymphoma, which then needed to be removed. This is not a story about ALCL. So now Motiva has an implant that is somewhere in between smooth and textured, and they call it nanotexture technology. Basically, to the surface, it looks smooth. You run your hands over it, it kind of feels kind of silky. And if you look under a microscope, it actually is textured. What their claim is, and many people believe to be the case, and they have science behind it, is that this texturing is a unique texturing that the body seems to like. And the interface is such that the amount of inflammation it generates, because remember, your body sees this device as foreign, it's not your own biology, seems to be the least, and your body sort of isn't offended by it. It's not bothered by it nearly as much. As a result, they argue that their capsular contracture rate, which is everybody makes a capsule, it's normal, but some people's body gets so pissed off, it makes a thick capsule, which we call capsular contracture, which then leads to weird shape and pain. It's not dangerous. It just screws everything up. They argue that their capsular contracture rate is less than everybody else. I'm not sure that's accurate because their data is very new and everybody else's data, meaning the other companies, is very old. But it is unarguable that their capsular contracture rate is very low and the capsule they make is very thin. That is true, which generally means the body doesn't see it as very unpleasant or unreactive. Also, they swear that their gel is somewhat better, which it is or not, I don't know. Okay. So the upside to this implant is that it doesn't make much of a capsule, which means it doesn't create much of a reaction. In some patients, that's a plus. And as a result, I think it is a good implant to use. In some patients, that is a minus, and I think it's a bad implant to use. What do you mean, Dr. Rahban? When would it be bad for you not to have a reaction? Well, it turns out the capsule is not your enemy. Your capsule is scar tissue, which is holding your implant in place. And if you, by nature, have shitty breast tissue, thin, not so robust, stretched out skin, and you put an implant in and there isn't enough scar tissue to hold the implant in, your implant will migrate and move. And that is the downside of Motiva. Many, many surgeons who have many, many years of experience have noted that the Motiva implant migrates and moves and displaces. And Motiva and everybody else knows that. So as a result, when you use Motiva, you now often have to use a mesh to keep it in place. Oh, wait, no one told me that. Okay, there is the issue. Nothing is without its issue. There is no perfect. So in patients who are prone to make a thick capsule, oh, I made it in the past, or have very, very thick tissue, maybe it's a great implant. In patients who are soft and floppy tissue and very migratory, then maybe it isn't the best implant. So as I have said a bazillion times, there is no holy grail, and this implant needs to be used like all other devices when and if it's indicated. Currently, it's the hottest thing since sliced bread, and 5 out of 4 out of 5 patients that come to my office have read it and heard about it and whatever. Why? Because this is the first time I can recall where patients are being advertised a device instead of historically the device was advertised to doctors. So what would happen up until recently is you would come to my office. Hey, Dr. Rahban. Yes, how can I help you? I feel my breasts are small. What do you suggest? We talk about the options. One of the options is a breast dog. So you don't even come in and ask for a breast dog. You just say, I think my breasts are small. I want them larger. I, your surgeon, your doctor, the person you're asking for advice, gives you my suggestions, one of which is an augmentation. In my 20 plus years, not one time has anyone said, oh, I want this brand. Because what do you know about brands? You don't know shit about brands. I am your surgeon. You picked me because I'm a great guy, good reviews, great results. I'm the expert. And I will guide you as to what I think is the right implant for you. Makes sense. Just like my wife had spine surgery. They didn't ask me what plate and screw we want, which company we want to use. We just said, we have pain. Dr. So-and-so, we trust you. And he made that decision. So I would choose, and that would be the end of it. Now they are marketing directly on social media to patients. So patients are like, oh my God, I heard this implant's the best. It's the best, the best, the best. Breast marketing, no implants, no reactions. Everyone loves it. And boom, they're all in your office. The problem is that, generally doctors don't want to argue with you because they want to do your surgery. So you come in, you're super excited about this Motiva. And you're like, fuck it, let's do it. I'm not saying it's a bad implant. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. I'm just saying that this is not the normal way we used to do this. And lots of doctors are jumping on because patients are coming in and a girl who may have not done a breast dog now thinks this is a healthier breast implant, now chooses to do it. And who am I as a doctor to tell you, hey, let's just stop and think about this for a second here. Let's explain it to you. Do I want to go into this dialogue with you or do I want to just be like, let's do it? So I'm just putting it out there. Just be intelligent. Everything has a plus or minus. You just need to know it. And if at the end, this is the right implant for you, high five. The next thing that's on trend, which is caused by this implant, is 99% of the implants today, up until this implant was launched, were being placed some partly under the muscle, meaning partial, complete, dual plane, what have you. The reason being is that when we started breast implants, 30, 40 years ago, we used to put the implants above the muscle. Why? Because it's easier. You open up the pocket, shove the implant in, no muscle manipulation, no pain, patient recovers, it's all good, high five. So what's the problem? Oh, well, problem number one was rippling. What do you mean rippling? Implants ripple. Implants are not rock hard like the one in the butt. They're soft, they're mushy, so they have waves in them. And when the implant sits under your tissue with nothing else covering it, the upper pole, the part at the top, which is the part that everybody sees when you're wearing a bathing suit, has less coverage on it. And so if you are relatively skinny, meaning you don't have huge boobs, over time, that implant will start to ripple a little bit and you will see it or feel it. Okay, has that changed? Not really, although Motiva says that, their implant doesn't have much rippling or what have you. I would argue that that's not the case. So that's one reason we stopped doing it over the muscle. The second reason was that we had some capsular contracture issues, meaning implants were getting hard. Well, many of the reasons the implants were getting hard was the techniques back then were not as good as the techniques currently. In other words, doctors would lick them and put the implants in. I'm making it up. That's not what would happen. But then the capsular contracture, it was sky high. The problem is all the data that we have is from 30 years ago. Motiva did their data recently when we're using all new techniques. So their argument is, we can go above the muscle now because we have new lower capsular contracture rates. Well, I would argue that the other implants also have a low capsular contracture rate, so that's not an issue. And then the upper pole shape, the shape of the top of your breast is a little rounder and perhaps a bit more fake. Why? Because you are a relatively thin person. You have a chest, and that chest is basically ribs and skin, and your chest comes down, 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 and then it's going to hit this implant and make a round circle because it's your skin, a little bit of breast tissue, and this implant. So the shape of the upper pole is a little fuller, and that's one of the reasons people didn't like it. It looked a bit round. None of that shit has changed as a result of Motiva. So we stopped doing that and we placed the implant under the muscle. The benefits were, number one, rippling by and large is eliminated in the upper pole. I don't care how skinny you are, you now have a muscle and your skin and tissue covering the implants. Rippling was gone. Awesome. Number two, the capsular contracture rate was significantly less. Whether that's true or not now because of the technique, it sounds like mostly that was because of shitty technique. So let's say it's a wash. And in my humble opinion, the upper pole, that means the transition from your chest, ribs, to your breast is much more natural and beautiful when you place the implant under the muscle, because the muscle softens that transition so the implant gets a little squashed, so it goes chest, breast, and down. I don't personally like super sharp edges on the top, and I personally don't like that overall appearance, and nor do my patients. So all I'm saying is now, going above the muscle, all of a sudden after 30 years is all the talk. And patients are being told that that's the way to do it. And then on top of it, they're doubling down and they're using a device called the Preservei, which basically is, minimally invasive, all this nice talk about saving and preserving and all this stuff. And I don't know. I don't necessarily buy it. I do think it's a good implant. I do think there are indications. I think there's reasons to use it. I don't think that this is this new holy grail of breast implants and that everyone should switch everything they're doing because we found the solution. And that's current movement of the end of 2025 and 2026. So if a patient comes to me, Dr. Rahban, I only do it if it's Motiva, knock yourself out. I've educated you. No problem. I need to at least educate you. I feel like a lot of doctors aren't spending the time because, of course, someone's coming in and they're asking for a lollipop. I don't necessarily know that you're going to spend time to tell them, no, lollipop's not good for you. Why don't you take, a granola bar? I think you're just going to lollipop, no problem, let's do it. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that we used to do a ton of radiofrequency microneedling. And so let's just take the most common type of radiofrequency microneedling, which is Morpheus 8. This isn't a Morpheus 8 cautionary. It's not anti-Morpheus 8. But there's a technology. It's microneedling, millions of holes in your face, tiny, kind of like 1,000 sewing machines or a lawnmower. And that microneedling is awesome. Mechanically poking microscopic holes in your face, microneedling has been shown and proven to make your skin generate new collagen, new tissue, and really make a difference in the quality and texture of your skin. No argument, no discussion. Then comes along radiofrequency. Radiofrequency is its own technology. It's radiofrequency. It's wavelengths, and it generates heat, and it has, basically for all intents and purposes, it's a heating energy mechanism. It's adding energy into tissue. And the idea in general, by adding energy to tissue, the principle behind it is we want to tighten tissue without surgery by adding energy to it, hence heating it. That's the basic principle. The issue that generally happens with any type of energy that's entered the body is that in addition to tightening, if it does or doesn't, it tends to have a little bit of a sequelae. There happens to be a fallout, whether they do it with liposuction and Rejuvenation. There's a burning effect, kind of, and the tissues around it that you're trying not to target have a damage. So in general, your face is made up of all these key structures. And when you look at my son, who's 4, you're like, oh, they're so young and tight. And then you look at my grandmother and she's old and saggy. A lot of things have happened. But one thing is for sure, fat in your face is needed. No arguing about that. That we've decided maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago when we started adding fat back to the face. place. Fatter people look younger, skinnier people look older. So the issue that we're having is when you deliver heat in any form to the face, often what's happening is people are getting fat atrophy and nerve damage and divots and dents and things like that. So radiofrequency combined with microneedling is a very big advancement of the last few years. And so they sold these machines to hundreds of thousands of providers, not doctors, providers. And as a result, everybody ran out, marketed the shit out of them. Morpheus is this, that one, this, that, the other. People ran out by the game because it's the newest, best thing. Did thousands and thousands of treatments. And like everything else, the jury's finally out. And it turns out that while some people had a fantastic experience, many people, enough people that the FDA came out and made a warning, had horrible experiences. Again, loss of fat, nerve damage, tissue elasticity, burns, etc., etc. So you need to be cautious. And I posted this on my social media, and oh my God, the number of people who came out, providers, oh, it's because of who's doing it. It was in the wrong hands. I don't give a shit what the reason is, you idiot. I have an obligation. Oh, but you've never used it. I don't give a shit if I've used it or not. I don't need to smoke to know it's bad for you, to tell patients not to smoke. What kind of stupid logic is that? I didn't say don't do it. I said if you do it, be aware that these issues are not infrequent. I stand by it, and I will always do that. So just be aware, radiofrequency microneedling, it turns out to have some issues with it, so be very careful. The last thing is, which is not a new thing, but the FDA also came out and put out a lot of warnings that, surprise, there's a lot of counterfeit products out on the market, like fake Botox and things like that. So this is not an unusual thing, and it will continue and will continue forever. If there's counterfeit Gucci and there's counterfeit Louis, there's going to be counterfeit Botox. The world is full of people that are malicious and malintended, and then there are thousands and thousands of providers that are shitty, and they'll buy the products. That's on you. Go to a reputable place. The likelihood that you walk into Hermes and the purse you buy is counterfeit is very unlikely. And the probability that you go into a reputable spa or go see a reputable doctor and they have counterfeit Botox is very unlikely. You go to some shady ass place and you get Botox done, then, buyer beware, that's on you. So I mean, this one doesn't surprise me that there's a bunch of garbage being brought over. And so, same thing with all the GLPs and the anything that is a commodity that's being sold, somebody will counterfeit it. Okay. So that's a wrap. That's my thoughts on what's happening in the end of 2025 and what's going to happen in the early parts of 2026. Who knows what will or won't stick? And at any rate, the key is always to educate yourself. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rady Rahban, and I leave you with these two parting requests. Number one, share our podcast if you can right now. When you're about to just literally be like, send this to 3 friends. We love you. I think you would be doing them a service. They're going to ultimately maybe go do something that they're going to regret, and you will have wished you sent it. The other, if you love the show, I promise you the most powerful thing you can do for us is go write us a positive review. Everyone gets jazzed about it, and it helps our ranking. So, all right, guys, that's a wrap. I will see you guys next week on yet another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored.